All right, this is my first talk in New York City, but I'm originally from New York, so this is very exciting for me to be able to talk about some of the research I've been doing in Indiana with the Indiana Department of Transportation, and as well as some of our partner states as well. So I'm just going to kick it off. Big shout out to our team. I'm just a mouthpiece here, a spokesperson for all of the hard work that the team has really put together and dive into data analytics and spatial analytics. So I can't thank them enough. So to talk about where I come from, so the Joint Transportation Research Program facilitates collaboration. So basically, we're a unit within Purdue University that works with the Indiana DOT on basically anything transportation related, right? So Indiana, I don't know if you guys know, but 70% of the country's population is reachable within 1 day's drive from Indiana. So it's a vast, freight network, transportation network, road network in Indiana. And when I say connected vehicles, because I'm gonna talk a lot about connected vehicles here. I mean not the DSRC kind, but the kind that you connect directly to a 4G, LTE, or 5G network, and as well as traffic signal cabinets. Really, the components within a traffic signal system that actually determines how much time each movement gets at an intersection. In New York City, there's over 13,000 signalized intersections, for instance, right? So just take a step back, right? For us to get data back in the day, like this was like a decade and a half ago, to figure out what like a traffic signal was doing and what the vehicle was doing, we had like no idea. It was just like a black box. And what we did was we basically played telephone. We had like contact closures and wires. We built a whole another refrigerator. I don't know if you guys know, like these wires that go in from one controller to the panel and get those wires into another machine. It was a lot of work just to get a little bit of data from the systems. So we really needed a scalable system, and we got everyone in the room, all the traffic signal controller manufacturers in the room, to say, hey, we got to be able to log the data to see when does this traffic signal go green, yellow, red for what movement, north, south, east, west, and are there vehicles at the intersection triggering the detectors, right? Fast forward 2010, we're able to get that technology in a traffic signal cabinet where the detectors, it's basically loops in the ground, or you have video or radar detectors, right? That basically has a contact closure, a vehicle pulls up, the controller gets it, the brains that are operation, oh, vehicle is trying to get a green for this movement, there you go, right? So depending on what other conflicting phases there are. So all that gets into a relational database, CSVs, and then we generate performance measures out of it. So, but it's a lot of work. It's $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 if you have those really wide intersections. You got to cut loops, have some person go in there and stick the wire in there. You might have to go up with a bucket truck or a cherry picker to drill, and of course, if anyone has run wires through conduits, it's a lot of work, right? So really, 2022, a lot of the automotive manufacturers, now they have data, and it's all connected, right, to connected vehicles. The vehicles actually, through all the sensors, know more about what's going on than we do, right? So this is an example of how we can visualize in traffic engineering time and space. So we don't just visualize spatially, but also visualize temporally. So this is an example of going down a high-speed corridor that's signalized. And when you see green here, excuse me, sorry, let me back up. The x-axis is time of day, so this is morning commute into Indianapolis. The vertical axis is distance, so it's a milepost linear reference from the suburb into Indianapolis. And basically, when you see a green trajectory, that is when the vehicle did not stop at a traffic signal. When you see orange, it's one stop, and when you see red or pink, that's 2 or more stops. Right? So if you've pulled up to a traffic signal, right, and there's like 10 cars in front of you, and the light turns green, and a couple of people go, and then the light turns red again, you're still stuck at the signal. That's bad. So we call that a split failure. So this is a way that traffic engineers can use temporal spatial data to see, okay, all the pinks there occurring at Wicker Road and Southport Road, that's where I want to focus my attention, right? So this is data-driven problem solving, really. So quick view, I know this is like, why am I 5 minutes in, I'm still talking about the agenda. I'm going to go through the winter road maintenance, lane markings, and electric vehicle chargers. So, I mean, I'm going to make it quick. Trajectory data, what that means, we have a couple of just very basic attributes we get from the traditional floating car data, which is a data point identifier, trajectory identifier, lat long, a timestamp, speed, and heading, really to get on the right side of the road. Typically, on Broadway is 10-foot lanes. New Jersey Turnpike is about 12-foot lanes. So if you have maybe a distance from the floor to the basketball hoop and you lay that flat, that's about 10 foot, right? So that's about a lane's width on Broadway. So that gives us a bit of lane level precision on where the vehicle's at and where they're heading. And this is about 1 second of data for the entire state of Indiana. It's 10 to 15,000 points, right? So that's coming in feed, it's streaming, constantly coming in, and we're just trying to make sense of it. California, in a month of data, maybe 30 billion records, right? So it's a lot of data. Even in an hour, the entire map of a state lights up. So why do we go through the trouble of doing all this? It's because we want to know, and agencies really, right, and the federal government really wants to know where to put your money, right? Where to put their money spent. Well, it is your money because it's taxpayer money, right? So where do you want to best focus maintenance, operations, and capital improvements, right? Where to put all that money without expensive infrastructure, because we can do that with vehicles now. So winter road maintenance. So typical year, Indiana DOT spends about $60 million on labor, fuel, salt, and maintenance costs. This is a map of the kind of like ants going across northern Indiana here. You see the Doppler radar overlay. And you can see that the storm's coming through, and the trails are trucks that are spreading salt on the roadways, right? So it's basically, if you see very dark purple, that means it's, typically, does anyone know how much salt, how many pounds of salt is spread on a mile of roadway, typically, by a salt truck? It's about 200 to 300 pounds per lane mile, right? So that's a lot of salt, right? It's a lot of money. So where are those, maybe there's some calibration issues. Where are those trucks traversing through a storm, right? This is me kind of shoveling salt as we're calibrating in the back of a salt truck. So data sources we use a lot of NOAA data, so National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration data, traffic camera images to get basically boots on the ground validation of, hey, this data makes sense to us, right? So we ingest a lot of those images, both from traffic cameras on towers, as well as snowplows on front of the dash cams, right? So this is an example, another time-space diagram. Basically, it's a 4-day storm, really. And the first one, so this is, if you imagine the interstate, basically we've linearized the interstate mile markers, right? From mile marker 130 to 200 outside of Indianapolis to just through Purdue University area. And basically what you're seeing here is a temperature map, right, of that. And you see here, it's a huge temperature drop, right, over maybe like second half of February 1st to February 2nd, and the temperature just tanks to like close to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can see the precipitation on the same temporal and linear or spatial scale. You can see here it starts with rain, and then maybe about midnight we start transitioning north to south, that rain turning into snow, right? But the traffic impact, so this is, green is good, traffic's going like 55, 60 miles an hour plus. And when you see the yellow, orange, red, and pinks, that's when it's going below 30, 20, 10, 0 miles an hour. And the impact actually does not come in until maybe a couple hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours after you think it happened, right? So I know Mr. Nandi in the previous presentation talked about, overcast skies have the most impact on ice cream sales. This is like, okay, if the snow falls on the ground, do the vehicles fly off the road immediately, or is there some buffer time, right? It really depends on what the temperature is before the snow hits the ground. So this is the ground truth validation. It's basically a ghost town. It's like the frozen north, like the Arctic. No one's traveling on the first day. The second day, people start creeping out a little bit. The roads start getting clear. The agencies, everyone's clearing the roads. So people on the fourth day start traveling. So I'll pause there for the winter maintenance. The other aspect that we perform research in is lane marking. So, of course, with autonomous level 2 plus autonomous vehicles, we need the vehicles to be able to see where the lane markings are, right? And that's with assisted driving features, ADAS features. But to know that, we have to get the data and to see where on the interstate network or the road network we have issues seeing seeing the lane markers. So what we do is we set up a system where we get data directly from the vehicle CAN bus, which is a network that basically gets all the data from the sensors. We pick 31 signals, and that's still 1,500 messages a second, right? We pump it into Google PubSub as a topic, and the subscription basically goes into a data flow on Google's end. We also test how many, on a typical compute engine, a standard compute instance, how many messages can that, take on per second. And we pump that all into Google Dataflow, and that goes into a data table inside of Google BigQuery. And once it's in Google BigQuery, we're home free. We can do all kinds of spatial temporal joins, dashboarding, all that stuff, right? So this is a real-time view. There's a 30-second lag. So what you see here, we're driving down I-65, and the camera's on the front, out the car. It's also on the speedometer where you see the LKA, the lane keep assist feature, both green, meaning the car can see both sides of the edge lines. When there's one side that's yellow or orange or red, it can't see it at all. And we see here that as the data is being fed into BigQuery, at 1/10 of a mile precision, right? We use KD trees to align, okay, where's it heading now? Where's it heading now? What part of the road is it on now? We fill that in, and when it's green, that means the vehicle can see the lane markers. When it's red, it can't see. And if it's like half and half, it can see half, half of it is visible and half is not. And see some patching work. This is some construction area. So some of these parts, especially when training, is very difficult to see. And we can assess that now with connected vehicle data in near real time, right? So, of course, automated driving level 2 automation, it's getting better and better, right? So this is like an example, I think it's in California where, the Tesla is able to navigate those edge lines and the center lines using their FSD, which is pretty incredible. So that's getting better and better. So the last thing I want to touch on is electric vehicles. And basically, I don't know, obviously there's been a mandate in California back in August and in New York by 2035, every vehicle that's sold has to be non-emission, right? So it has to be, electric, hydrogen, something like that, right? So basically, if you're talking about electric vehicles, where are you going to put your chargers, right? And recently, bipartisan bill, $3 billion allocated to the states to get funding to put chargers in, right? And really, it's a very short time frame for states to figure out where are my resources best allocated to, right? Where along the routes in the state we should put chargers. So we basically use the connected vehicle data to look at, okay, where are the electric vehicles traveling and where are they not traveling? And where are the ICE vehicles, the internal combustion vehicles traveling, right? So where are the gaps? So, and where are the chargers, right? So this is, federal, data that's widely available. And we look at all the segments of interstate that has more than 50 miles or more of gaps where there's no charging. So we call those charge deserts. And those charge deserts, that's where you want to put the chargers, right? So when there's, maybe there's a, fast food, or maybe there's a gas station, maybe you want to put a charger there so that people can spend 20 or, 40 minutes charging up while they're doing, getting food or something like that. So this is our end of a visualization that we put together in Cardo. So this is vehicle miles traveled. So basically, where are the electric vehicles traveling now? And it's a real-time, near real-time view that we have a 15-minute scheduled BigQuery scheduler, right? And that's refreshing the data. And the Cardo map is using the builder that's looking at the VMTs per county. So we use the Google Public Data Set County to divide up all of the VMTs that the vehicles are traveling at. And basically looking at where the top counties that are being traveled. Of course, we only have 10 miles around the border of Indiana, so some of the counties around, let's say Chicago, Cook County, we only have about half the vehicles in there, or Louisville. So a lot of this research has been Indiana DOT has used a lot of this research and findings as one of the major factors for deciding where to put chargers, as well as part of their NEVI implementation plan. And so it's been, this data has been a game changer for everybody. So in summary, we want to use connected vehicle data to best focus where agencies should invest their money in terms of maintenance, operations, and capital improvements. without all that expensive infrastructure as I showed earlier. And here are the links to a couple of our papers that I've described early in this presentation. So thank you so much.